Hi, my name is Dominick DaFazio, and I'm a summer analyst in the NYL Ventures team. Today I'd like to present the business applications of virtual reality. I've been passionate about this technology since I first heard about it 3 or 4 years ago, so I'm very excited to share what I've learned over the summer and how it can relate to New York Life's business operations. So before we begin, I'd like to give you a roadmap to cover what I hope to accomplish over the presentation. Firstly, I'm going to give you a briefing on the definitions and an overview of the industry. Then I'm going to identify currently avoidable expenses, and you'll see what I mean by that, issues that can be solved by virtual reality. I'm also going to talk about productivity limitations as they currently stand and how we're kind of limited in what's possible for us to do. And then I'm also going to showcase solutions about how virtual reality presents novel ways to overcome these costs and these productivity limitations that weren't possible before. And then hopefully I'll conclude by showing you that this is a cost-effective way to address these problems and accurately predict the future. So let's jump right in. What you see before you here is augmented reality. It's by a company called Magic Leap. They're a $1.2 billion stealth mode startup that's addressing the need for building augmented reality technology in a business applicable way. What you see here is the projection of computer-generated assets onto the physical world, and that's really what augmented reality really is. It can be done through the use of a headset or glasses, think Google Glass, and it allows the user to interact with the data and demonstrate it in front of them in new ways. I'm actually not going to be talking about augmented reality today. Instead, I'm going to be focusing on virtual reality, and it's for a couple reasons. Augmented reality technology is 1 or 2 years behind in development, and because of that, the business applications are slightly behind and less able to be predicted. With virtual reality, that's not exactly the case, and as you'll see, the business applications are very clear. So what is virtual reality? Well, VR is the use of a headset to project a computer-generated environment that encompasses the user's full field of view. It creates an unparalleled sense of immersion and presence within this virtual world. And much similar to the Cologne Cathedral that you see we're flying through, it's a virtual representation of a real space. It allows the user to feel present and to be there, even when they're not. VR is a game changer in every sense of the word. It allows us to overcome some of the most age-old problems that we've faced as businesses. And I think that it's important to tell the story of this technology in a story of screens. So from the beginning, when we first invented the computer monitor, we built a screen that allows us to interact with the computer. We developed that screen into laptop computers and finally into the smartphone, which allowed us to communicate and interact with computers in unprecedented ways. Allows us to really move data at the tip of our fingers. But many people are wondering what the next screens are. And I firmly believe that the new screens are already here. They're the Oculus Rift, which represents virtual reality, and the Microsoft HoloLens, which represents augmented reality. These new screens will present such competitive advantages to the businesses that adopt them that it's extremely important, in my opinion, to understand how they will impact the world around us. So let's give you a quick timeline overview. The concept of virtual reality was invented in 1930 by a man named Stanley Weinbaum in a sci-fi novel. We didn't see any consumer applications until about the 90s when Nintendo released the Virtual Boy game console to a commercial failure. And that's just because the technology wasn't there yet. We have the Matrix and Google Glass, I'm sure we all remember. But the modern era of virtual reality didn't begin until 2014 when Valve invented the persistent display. It allows the user to look into the virtual environment and have the virtual world move with the user as they moved into the virtual world. Then we have a Cambrian explosion of sorts. After Facebook bought Oculus Rift for $2 billion, startups quickly grew and tried to fill every niche in this new technological ecosystem. And today, in 2017, we have over 1,000 VR and AR companies that are doing exactly that. So how can virtual reality technology help New York Life Insurance do business? Well, every business faces two problems resulting from two phenomena, and that's space and time. Now, what do I mean by space? I mean the space that we require to work, the space that separates us, and the space between us and the people that we want to talk to. And by time, I mean the time it takes to traverse that space and to work with that space. VR technologies enable us to overcome these problems by presenting novel solutions that we haven't really seen before. And I'm not the only one that believes this. As you can see in my industry overview here, almost every technological corporation that we have has their toe in either virtual reality or augmented reality technologies. There's also an assortment of new players, like Magic Leap, that we saw before. So now I'd like to move into business applications. And I'd like to talk to you about some problems that we haven't really thought could be overcome before. And after I go through these problems, as well as some productivity limitations, I'm going to talk about how virtual reality can present solutions to them. So let's begin with office space. With offices, there's often not a good view. They're very immobile. It's hard to move around desks without ruining the whole operations of the company. And they're very, very expensive. In 2016, according to our financial statements, New York Life Insurance spent $142 million on office rent. And that's simply the cost of a shared space to collaborate and work together. I also want to talk about business travel. While it's fun and free for employees, it's very expensive for New York Life Insurance. In 2016, New York Life Insurance spent $16 million on air travel, $25 million on hotel lodging, and $4 million on ground costs, totaling $45 million annually. That's simply the cost of doing business away from our established operations. Finally, we have productivity. And the society we live in today was built on the face-to-face meeting, the pen and paper, and the telephone call. And today we have some really amazing technology with computers and smartphones. However, we're still limited in certain ways. Number one, we're stuck in two-dimensional space. I still have to give my presentation on a screen. Human-computer interfaces are limited. I still have to use a mouse and a keyboard to interact with my data. And we can't be present all the time. And by that I mean it's very difficult to tell our coworkers exactly what we're working on and how that work can be collaborated on in the best way. Office space is also very expensive, and business travel is also expensive. What that leaves us with is a high potential productivity for every employee, as well as $1 billion to cut over 5 years, resulting from that office space and business travel expense. There are many applications in each of these different use cases, but I'm going to highlight what I consider the most important, beginning with changing space. And first, I'd like to focus on a UNICEF campaign called Clouds Over Sidra. It got a lot of attention and awards because of the level of empathy it was able to transmit information to the users that witnessed the video. It put users in the place of a Syrian refugee and showed what life was like in these refugee camps. To an unprecedented scale, it made users feel what it was like, and because of that, the ability to transmit that information was really powerful. Now, for New York Life Insurance, I imagine using virtual reality technology to tell our brand story in novel ways and to really capture what it means to be a part of the company and to do business with us. And virtual reality can allow us to do that in a truly immersive fashion. We also have the company Virtualytics. It's a startup that allows you to bring your data out from the 2D Excel spreadsheet into the 3D virtual world in really amazing ways. My favorite analogy for what they do is imagine playing 2D chess on your computer your whole life, and you never knew that a real chessboard actually existed. You never knew that you could feel the pieces and move them around. And then someone brings out a chessboard and plays you in a match. That difference is the same that Virtualytics proposes, bringing the data out of the computer and allowing you to manipulate it and interact with it in truly amazing ways. We also have VR training, and I've spent a good chunk of my summer focusing on this use case. There are many virtual reality companies that are doing something in this space, but I like to highlight 3. Striver was founded to put NFL athletes in the moment, in the game, and to annotate that experience using 360 video and showing exactly what they should do whenever that situation would arise. It's an astounding success, and I think that they have collaborated with many different NFL teams. But they've also moved into the consumer space, allowing companies like Walmart to put their employees in the exact situation that they would face in the real world. New York Life Insurance could do the same thing. They could put agents in this perspective of where they would be when they're on the job and help them and train them to show exactly what they should do in those client interactions. Now, Cerebrum and Pixel Group do something similar to Striver, but they do it in the virtual world. And instead of 360 video, that allows you to kind of create any situation in any environment that you see fit, and to manage it and to change it and progress it and update it. There are numerous benefits, and Cerebrum actually collaborated with a company called Labster to put out a study that showed that virtual reality learning is twice as effective as traditional methods, and that was in a science classroom. So there are other benefits as well. Better data analytics. Like I was saying, you can see exactly what works and then update it as you see fit. Very simple to do since it's on the computer instead of in a 2D dispersible format. It's simpler to transfer knowledge. You don't have to think of the best way to write it down. Instead, you can just put users in that experience. It's easy to use. You just put your headset on, and the trainer and the trainee can be located miles and miles apart and still be in that same room working together. It's just also more fun. It's more fun to be in the moment and to learn on the spot. And that's a really good selling point, I think, for virtual reality training. We also have communication in VR. Imagine having an assortment of superpowers, the ability to teleport anywhere you see fit, the ability to control time, to stop everything that's happening in a convention and really listen to what the speaker's saying and rewind if you miss something. Imagine also the ability to scrutinize in infinite detail, to zoom in as far as you see fit or zoom out as far as you would like. These superpowers are all possible in the virtual world, and there are companies that are taking advantage of these already. Here you can see some solutions that allow us to virtualize some of our business travel operations. Facebook's building something called Places, which allows users to congregate and have meetings in the virtual world. It allows them to communicate and be present together in the virtual world so that they can do work or play, and that is going to be the future of the convention. Why need to fly if you can just simply put on your headset and be there with everybody else? We also have Pluto VR, which is like Skype for virtual reality. It allows the user to simply give a ring to their coworker or their friend, and if the other user accepts that phone call, then the first user is teleported into the second user's application, as if they were there, playing that game or in that office space. And it's really the future, I think, of how we're going to communicate in the virtual world. We also have Face, which tracks your facial expressions, and which is going to be really necessary if we want to do business in the virtual world. It'll be really hard to talk to someone if you can't see their mouth moving or how their eyes look. And Face is solving that problem. We also have what I think is the most valuable use case, and that's the virtual office. Now, what you're going to see in front of you is Microsoft's interpretation of what this might look like, beginning with augmenting the office. And what I mean by this is they're going to put some computer-generated assets in front of you and show you how, like, for example, a Microsoft HoloLens could superimpose your pet, plants, your computer applications, as well as the computer interface that you're used to. Then things are going to slowly get virtualized. You'll see that the user has been made into an avatar, which represents the fact that she can be in this physical space from anywhere in the world. Then things get even more virtual. Here, you'll see that virtual reality allows us to build any kind of office we see fit. Whatever allows us to be most productive, and in this case, it's a serene mountainscape superimposed over a virtual office. This allows us an unprecedented level of immersion and design in our offices. There are some other features too that I'd like to cover in terms of what virtual offices have in terms of advantages over the traditional office. The virtual office is relatively inexpensive, and I'm going to talk about this in a bit, but compared to the office space rent that we currently pay, this is a huge selling point. We also have supreme customization. As you saw in the video, you can build any kind of office that you see fit. It's easy to update. My favorite example is, imagine you have a new managing partner and he requires a new corner space office. However, there's no more corner space offices in your current office. No problem in the virtual world. Simply copy the office you'd like and paste it on the other side of the room. And there you have it, a new office. You also have freedom of design and size. You can build an office the size of a football field or as small as you'd like and design it however you see fit. And we can really focus on beauty because of that, which has been, I think, neglected in terms of building a beautiful working space that everyone can be productive and enjoy. We also have VR computers, which I believe are probably the most important application of the virtual office. Being able to manipulate your screens in such a way allows you to interact with your data in new ways. And a company called vSpatial is doing just that. They are a Texas-based startup that are developing the virtual reality office space of the future. They allow the user to manipulate their screens in this virtual office however they see fit. You can expand them, minimize them, copy them, and add them, or you can eliminate them altogether and have your data and your files flying around you above, which allows you to really show exactly what you're working on to your collaborators and your coworkers, as the woman in this photo is. We also have Converse, which is out of Lumen Lab. It's MetLife's innovation center, and they've built a virtual space that allows their customers to wait, to interact, instead of being on the phone waiting for waiting music. And it's proven to be really immersive and an enjoyable experience over the traditional phone call. I recommend you try it yourself. After the presentation, simply take out your phone and visit Converse's website, and you'll see that their virtual office is viewable from your smartphone. So what's the catch with all of this amazing technology? Well, there are really three. Firstly, we have adoption. And by that I mean it's difficult to call someone on a cell phone if no one else has a cell phone. The same is true with virtual reality. It's hard to do business in the virtual world if nobody else is in the virtual world. There's also technology. The technological limitations are currently so that only the best computers can run virtual reality simulations, or if you're running a lower quality simulation, it's much more difficult to be doing business in a low resolution, graphical, limited space. We also have applications, which by that I mean there's no killer app out yet for virtual reality. That said, there are solutions to all of these problems in the works. In terms of adoption, we've already seen the Oculus Rift drop by $400 over the past 2 months. That cost is going to continue to be lowered and allow for even increased amount of adoption. Then we also have breakthroughs in technology. Something called Fove, a startup company that's building eye tracking technology, allows the user to only resolve the area in which their eye is looking, which means that any computer can run a virtual reality simulation because of the need to only run that specific location. We also have investment. An enormous amount of money is being poured into startups that are building these applications, and I'm certain that one of them will be that killer app. The point of all this is at some point in the time and development of virtual reality applications and technology, you'll see there's a moment where, given the use case, the benefits of adopting technology absolutely outweigh the costs. In some cases, it's already true. Virtual reality training is a proven effective way to show that your users can learn faster and in a more enjoyable format. And I believe that using that technology for client-agent interaction training could be very, very helpful and augment our operations as they currently exist. Other applications like office space should be used probably further down the road, maybe 2 or 3 years, and other applications will be even further down. But the point is there is a point in which we should truly consider adopting this technology to remain competitive in the landscape. So I want to conclude by showing you what a virtual office costs compared to our current expenses. Say we have a workforce of about 10,000 employees. It costs us about $1,000 to buy each one of those employees a headset and a computer, about $2 million to build the virtual architecture necessary for communication and offices, and about $100,000 to keep it up. What that means is we spend about $12.5 million over 5 years. Now compare that to what we currently spent. $150 million on office and $45 million on business travel. Over 5 years, that can easily add up to $1 billion in expenses. When you compare those two numbers, you'll see that the technology itself is extremely cost effective. My favorite statistic is that for every dollar that you virtualize of a physical process, you get $80 back in virtual savings. If we adopt 50% of our operations, the virtual reality architecture pays for itself in less than 2 months. Now, my words, my videos, do not do this technology justice. I absolutely recommend that you go out, try virtual reality for yourself, and see what I'm talking about. And for that, VR World's a really great solution. Located on 34th and 5th, They'll give you a full day's experience of all of the latest virtual reality technology for a low cost. You also have locations to Samsung 837 on Washington 13th, where you can experience it for free on Samsung VR, as well as local movie theaters now have HTC Vives as like waiting space. Certainly try it out if you see it, definitely. If you have any questions, thank you so much. I appreciate it.